Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
This was the final voice contact with Flight 370. With all 239 passengers and crew presumed dead, the plane wasn't seen again. With the accident named the aviation's biggest mystery, find out in this video what we know and what we did. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, also known as MH370 or MAS370, was a scheduled international passenger flight operated by Malaysia Airlines from Kuala Lumpur International Airport to its destination, Beijing Capital International Airport. The aircraft was carrying 12 Malaysian crew members and 227 passengers from 14 different nations. On the day of the disappearance, Malaysia Airlines released the names and nationalities of the passengers and crew, based on the flight manifest. The passenger list was later modified to include 2 Iranian passengers traveling on stolen Austrian and Italian passports. In the cockpit, 53-year-old Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah from Penang. He joined Malaysia Airlines as a cadet pilot in 1981 and, after training and receiving his commercial pilot's license, he became a second officer with the airline in 1983. He was promoted to captain of Boeing 737-400 airliners in 1991, captain of Airbus A330-300 in 1996, and captain of Boeing 777-200 in 1998. He had been a type rating instructor and a type rating examiner since 2007. Zahari had a total of 18,365 hours of flying experience. His first officer was 27-year-old Fariq Abdul Hamid. He joined Malaysia Airlines as a cadet pilot in 2007. After becoming a second officer of Boeing 737-400 airliners, he was promoted to first officer of the Boeing 737-400 in 2010 and then transitioned to the Airbus A330-300 in 2012. In November 2013, he began training as first officer of Boeing 777-200 aircraft. Flight 370 was his final training flight and he was scheduled to be examined on his next flight. Fariq had accumulated 2,763 hours of flying experience. Flight 370 was operated with a Boeing 777-2H6R, serial number 28420, registration 9 Mike Romeo Oscar. It was the 404th Boeing 777 produced, first flown on the 14th of May 2002, and was delivered new to Malaysia Airlines on the 31st of May 2002. The aircraft was powered by 2 Rolls-Royce Trent 892 engines and configured to carry 282 passengers in total capacity. It had accumulated 53,471.6 hours and 7,526 cycles, takeoffs and landings, in service and had not previously been involved in any major incidents, though a minor incident while taxiing at Shanghai Pudong International Airport in August 2012 resulted in a broken wing tip. Its last maintenance, a check, was carried out on the 23rd of February 2014. The aircraft was in compliance with all applicable airworthiness directives for the airframe and engines. A replenishment of the crew oxygen system was performed on the 7th of March 2014, a routine maintenance task. An examination of this procedure found nothing unusual. 2250. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah signs in for duty. 2315. First Officer Fariq Abdul Hamid signs in for duty. 000. The aircraft's SDU logs onto the Inmarsat satellite communication network. 027. ATC gives Flight 370 clearance to push back from the gate. 040. ATC gives Flight 370 clearance to take off.
370, 3 to right of takeoff. Nice.
3 to right, destination Malaysia 37. Thank you, bye.
Flight 370 takes off from runway 32 right at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. 0 hours 42 minutes and 53 seconds ATC gives Flight 370 clearance to climb to flight level 180 and proceed directly to waypoint Igari. 0 hours 46 minutes and 39 seconds Flight 370 is transferred from the airport's ATC to Lumpur Radar ATC. Both the airport and Lumpur Radar ATC are based at the Kuala Lumpur Area Control Center.
Malaysian 370.
Malaysian 370, selamat pagi. Identified, climb flight level 180, cancel aside, turn right, direct to Ikari.
Okay, level 180, direct Ikari, Malaysian 370.
For radar, good morning. Climb flight level 250.
Morning, level 250, Malaysian 370.
Malaysian 370, climb flight level 350.
Climb level 350, Malaysian 370. Malaysian 370, maintaining level 350.
Malaysian 370.
1 hour 7 minutes and 48 seconds, the final data transmission from Flight 370 using the ACARS protocol is made. 1 hour 7 minutes and 48 seconds to 2 hours 3 minutes and 41 seconds. The satellite communication link is lost sometime during this period.
Malaysian 370, maintaining level 350.
Malaysian 370. Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
One hour 21 minutes and 13 seconds, the position symbol of Flight 370 disappears from Kuala Lumpur Area Control Center radar, indicating the aircraft's transponder is no longer functioning. Malaysian military radar continues to track the aircraft, which, almost immediately, begins a turn to the left until it is traveling in a southwesterly direction. Voice contact is attempted by another aircraft at the request of Ho Chi Minh ACC. Mumbling and radio static are heard in reply. 137. An expected half-hourly ACARS data transmission is not received. 139. Ho Chi Minh ACC contacts Kuala Lumpur Area Control Center to inquire about Flight 370. Ho Chi Minh ACC says verbal contact was not established and Flight 370 disappeared from its radar screens near waypoint BITOD. Kuala Lumpur Area Control Center responds that Flight 370 did not return to its frequency after passing waypoint IGARI. 146. Ho Chi Minh ACC contacts Kuala Lumpur Area Control Center and informs them that radar contact with Flight 370 was established near IGARI but lost near BITOD and that verbal contact was never established. 152. Flight 370 reached the southern end of Penang Island. First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid's cell phone registered with a cell tower below, though no other data was transmitted. Flight 370. Then turn towards northwest along the Strait of Malacca. 1:57. Ho Chi Minh ACC informs Kuala Lumpur Area Control Center there was no contact with Flight 370, despite attempts on many frequencies and aircraft in the vicinity. 2 hours 3 minutes and 41 seconds. Malaysia Airlines Dispatch Center sends a message to the cockpit instructing pilots to contact Vietnam ATC, to which there is no response. A ground-to-aircraft ACARS data request, transmitted from the ground station multiple times between 2:03 to 2:05, was not acknowledged by the aircraft satellite data unit. 2 hours 3 minutes and 48 seconds. Kuala Lumpur Area Control Center contacts Ho Chi Minh ACC and relays information from Malaysia Airlines Operations Center that Flight 370 is in Cambodian airspace. 2:15. Kuala Lumpur Area Control Center queries Malaysia Airlines Operations Center, which replies that it is able to exchange signals with Flight 370, which is in Cambodian airspace. 2:18. Kuala Lumpur Area Control Center contacts Ho Chi Minh ACC asking them whether Flight 370 was supposed to enter Cambodian airspace. HCM ACC replies that Flight 370's planned route did not take it into Cambodian airspace and that they had checked. Cambodia had no information about, or contact with, Flight 370. 2:22. The last primary radar contact is made by the Malaysian military, 200 nautical miles northwest of Penang. 2:25. A log-on request is sent by the aircraft on its satellite communication link to the Inmarsat satellite communications network. The link is re-established after being lost for between 22 and 68 minutes. This communication is sometimes erroneously referred to as the first hourly handshake after the flight's disappearing from radar. 2:34. Kuala Lumpur Area Control Center queries Malaysia Airlines Operations Center about communication status with Flight 370, but it was not sure whether a message sent to Flight 370 was successful. 2:39. A ground-to-aircraft telephone call, via the aircraft satellite link, goes unanswered. 3:30. Malaysia Airlines Operations Center informs Kuala Lumpur Area Control Center that position information was based on flight projection and is not reliable for aircraft tracking. Between 3:30 and 4:25, Kuala Lumpur and Ho Chi Minh ACC's query Chinese air traffic control. 2 hours 25 minutes and 27 seconds, first handshake, log-on request, initiated by aircraft. 2 hours 39 minutes and 52 seconds, ground-to-aircraft telephone call, acknowledged by SDU, unanswered. 3 hours 41 minutes and 0 seconds, second handshake, initiated by ground station. 4 hours 41 minutes and 2 seconds, third handshake, initiated by ground station. 5 hours 41 minutes and 24 seconds, fourth handshake, initiated by ground station. 6:30. Flight 370 misses its scheduled arrival at Beijing Capital International Airport. 6:32. The Kuala Lumpur Aeronautical Rescue Coordination Center, ARCC, is activated. 6 hours 41 minutes and 19 seconds, fifth handshake, initiated by ground station. 7 hours 13 minutes and 58 seconds, a ground-to-aircraft telephone call placed by Malaysia Airlines, via the aircraft satellite link, goes unanswered. 7:13. Ground-to-aircraft telephone call, acknowledged by SDU, unanswered. 7:24. Malaysia Airlines issues a press statement announcing that Flight 370 is missing. 8 hours 10 minutes and 58 seconds, sixth handshake, initiated by ground station. 8:11. The last successful automated hourly handshake is made with the Inmarsat satellite communication network. 8 hours 19 minutes and 29 seconds. The aircraft sends a log-on request, sometimes referred to as a partial handshake, to the satellite. Investigators believe this follows a power failure between the time the engine stopping due to fuel exhaustion and the emergency power generator starting. 8 hours 19 minutes and 37 seconds. Following a response from the ground station, the aircraft replies with a log-on acknowledgement message at 8:19. This is the final transmission received from Flight 370. 9:15. The aircraft does not respond to an hourly, automated handshake attempt. A search and rescue effort was launched in Southeast Asia soon after the disappearance of Flight 370. Following the initial analysis of communications between the aircraft and a satellite, the surface search was moved to the southern Indian Ocean 1 week after the aircraft's disappearance. Between the 18th of March and the 28th of April, 19 vessels and 345 sorties by military aircraft searched over 4,600,000 square kilometers. The final phase of the search was a bathymetric survey and sonar search of the seafloor, about 1,800 kilometers, 970 nmi, 1,100 miles, southwest of Perth, Western Australia. With effect from the 30th of March 2014, the search was coordinated by the Joint Agency Coordination Centre, JACC, an Australian government agency that was established specifically to manage the effort to locate and recover Flight 370, and which primarily involved the Malaysian, Chinese, and Australian governments. On the 17th of January 2017, the official search for Flight 370, which had proved to be the most expensive search operation in aviation history, was suspended after yielding no evidence of the aircraft other than some marine debris on the coast of Africa. The final ATSB report, published on the 3rd of October 2017, stated that the underwater search for the aircraft, as of the 30th of June 2017, had cost a total of $155 million. The underwater search accounted for 86% of this amount, bathymetry 10%, and program management 4%. Malaysia had supported 58% of the total cost, Australia 32%, and China 10%. The report also concluded that the location where the aircraft went down had been narrowed to an area of 25,000 square kilometers by using satellite images and debris drift analysis. In January 2018, the private American marine exploration company Ocean Infinity resumed the search for MH370 in the narrowed 25,000 square kilometers area, using the Norwegian ship Seabed Constructor. The search area was significantly extended during the course of the search, and by the end of May 2018, the vessel had searched a total area of more than 112,000 square kilometers, 43,000 square miles, using 8 autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs. The contract with the Malaysian government ended soon afterward, and the search was concluded without success on the 9th of June 2018. The Kuala Lumpur Aeronautical Rescue Coordination Centre was activated at 5:30, 4 hours after communication was lost with the aircraft, to coordinate search and rescue efforts. Search efforts began in the Gulf of Thailand and the South China Sea. On the second day of the search, Malaysian officials said that radar recordings indicated that Flight 370 may have turned around before vanishing from radar screens. The search zone was expanded to include part of the Strait of Malacca. On the 12th of March, the chief of the Royal Malaysian Air Force announced that an unidentified aircraft, believed to be Flight 370, had traveled across the Malay Peninsula and was last sighted on military radar 370 kilometers northwest of the island of Penang. Search efforts were subsequently increased in the Andaman Sea and Bay of Bengal. Records of signals sent between the aircraft and a communication satellite over the Indian Ocean revealed that the plane had continued flying for almost 6 hours after its final sighting on Malaysian military radar. Initial analysis of these communications determined that Flight 370 was along one of 2 arcs, equidistant from the satellite, when its last signal was sent. On the 15th of March, the same day upon which the analysis was disclosed publicly, authorities announced that they would abandon search efforts in the South China Sea, Gulf of Thailand, and Strait of Malacca in order to focus their efforts on the 2 corridors. The northern arc, from northern Thailand to Kazakhstan, was soon discounted, for the aircraft would have had to pass through heavily militarized airspace, and those countries claimed that their military radar would have detected an unidentified aircraft entering their airspace. The emphasis of the search was shifted to the southern Indian Ocean west of Australia and within Australia's aeronautical and maritime search and rescue regions that extend to 75 degrees east longitude. Accordingly, on the 17th of March, Australia agreed to manage the search in the southern locus from Sumatra to the southern Indian Ocean. From 18 to the 27th of March 2014, the search effort focused on a 305,000 square kilometers, 118,000 square miles area about 2,600 kilometers southwest of Perth. The search area, which Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott called as close to nowhere as it's possible to be, is renowned for its strong winds, inhospitable climate, hostile seas, and deep ocean floors. Satellite imagery of the region was analyzed. Several objects of interest and 2 possible debris fields were identified on images made between 16 and the 26th of March. None of these possible objects were found by aircraft or ships. Revised estimates of the radar track and the aircraft's remaining fuel led to a move of the search 1,100 kilometers northeast of the previous area on the 28th of March, which was followed by another shift on the 4th of April. Between 2 and the 17th of April, an effort was made to detect the underwater locator beacons, ULBs, informally known as pingers, attached to the aircraft's flight recorders, because the beacon's batteries were expected to expire around the 7th of April. Australian naval cutter ADV Ocean Shield, equipped with a towed pinger locator, TPL, joined China's Haixin 01, equipped with a handheld hydrophone, and the Royal Navy's HMS Echo, equipped with a hull-mounted hydrophone, in the search. Operators considered the effort to have little chance of success given the vast search area and the fact that a TPL can only search up to 130 km/2 per day. Between 4 and the 8th of April, several acoustic detections were made that were close to the frequency and rhythm of the sound emitted by the flight recorder's ULBs. Analysis of the acoustic detections determined that, although unlikely, the detections could have come from a damaged ULB. A sonar search of the seafloor near the detections was carried out between the 14th of April and the 28th of May but yielded no sign of Flight 370. In a March 2015 report, it was revealed that the battery of the ULB attached to Flight 370's flight data recorder may have expired in December 2012 and thus may not have been as capable of sending signals as would an unexpired battery. In late June 2014, details of the next phase of the search were announced. Officials have called this phase the underwater search, despite the previous seafloor sonar survey. Continued refinement of the analysis of Flight 370's satellite communications identified a wide area search along the 7th arc, where Flight 370 was located when it last communicated with the satellite. The priority search area was in the southern extent of the wide area search. Some of the equipment used for the underwater search is known to be most effective when towed 200 m, 650 feet, above the seafloor at the end of a 9.7 km cable. Available bathymetric data for this region was of poor resolution, thus necessitating a bathymetric survey of the search area before the underwater phase began. Commencing in May, the survey charted around 208,000 square kilometers, 80,000 square miles, of seafloor until the 17th of December 2014, when it was suspended so that the ship conducting the survey could be mobilized in the underwater search. The governments of Malaysia, China, and Australia made a joint commitment to thoroughly search 120,000 square kilometers of seafloor. This phase of the search, which began on the 6th of October 2014, used 3 vessels equipped with towed deep-water vehicles that use side-scan sonar, multi-beam echo sounders, and video cameras to locate and identify aircraft debris. A 4th vessel participated in the search between January and May 2015, using an AUV to search areas that could not be effectively searched using equipment on the other vessels. Following the discovery of the flaperon on Réunion, the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, ATSB, reviewed its drift calculations for debris from the aircraft and, according to the JACC, was satisfied that the search area was still the most likely crash site. Reverse drift modeling of the debris, to determine its origin after 16 months, also supported the underwater search area, although this method is very imprecise over long periods. On the 17th of January 2017, the 3 countries jointly announced the suspension of the search for Flight 370. On the 17th of October 2017, Malaysia received proposals from 3 companies, including Dutch-based Fugro and American company Ocean Infinity, offering to continue the search for the aircraft. In January 2018, Ocean Infinity announced that it was planning to resume the search in the narrowed 25,000 square kilometers area. The search attempt was approved by the Malaysian government, provided that payment would only be made if the wreckage were found. Ocean Infinity chartered the Norwegian ship Seabed Constructor to perform the search. In late January, it was reported that the ice tracking system had detected the vessel reaching the search zone on the 21st of January. The vessel then started moving to the most likely crash site according to the drift study by the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization, CSIRO. The planned search area of Site 1, where the search began, was 33,012 square kilometers, while the extended search area covered a further 48,500 square kilometers. In April, a report by Ocean Infinity revealed that Site 4 inches, further northeast along the 7th arc, had been added to the search plan. By the end of May 2018, the vessel had searched a total area of over 112,000 square kilometers, 43,000 square miles, using 8 AUVs. All areas of Site 1 inch, including areas beyond that originally planned for Site 1, Site 2 inches, and Site 3, had been searched. The final phase of the search was conducted in Site 4 in May 2018, before the weather limits Ocean Infinity's ability to continue working this year. Malaysia's new Transport Minister Loke Su Fook announced on the 23rd of May 2018 that the search for MH370 would conclude at the end of the month. Ocean Infinity confirmed on the 31st of May that its contract with the Malaysian government had ended, and it was reported on the 9th of June 2018 that the Ocean Infinity search had come to an end. Ocean floor mapping data collected during the search have been donated to the Nippon Foundation Gebka Seabed 2030 project, to be incorporated into the global map of the ocean floor. In March 2019, in the wake of the 5th anniversary of the disappearance, the Malaysian government stated that it was willing to look at any credible leads or specific proposals regarding a new search. Ocean Infinity stated that it was ready to resume the search on the same no-fee, no-fine basis, believing that it would benefit from the experience that it had gained from its search for the wreck of Argentinian submarine-era San Juan and bulk carrier ship Stellar Daisy. Ocean Infinity believed that the most probable location was still somewhere along the 7th arc around the area identified previously and upon which its 2018 search was based. By October 2017, 20 pieces of debris believed to be from 9 MMRO had been recovered from beaches in the western Indian Ocean. 18 of the items were identified as being very likely or almost certain to originate from MH370, while the other 2 were assessed as probably from the accident aircraft. On the 16th of August 2017, the ATSB released 2 reports. The analysis of satellite imagery collected on the 23rd of March 2014, 2 weeks after MH370 disappeared, classifying 12 objects in the ocean as probably man-made, and a drift study of the recovered objects by the CSIRO, identifying the crash area, with unprecedented precision and certainty, northeast of the main 120,000 square kilometers underwater search zone. The first item of debris to be positively identified as originating from Flight 370 was the right flaperon, a trailing edge control surface. It was discovered in late July 2015 on a beach in Saint Andre, Réunion, an island in the western Indian Ocean, about 4,000 kilometers west of the underwater search area. The item was transported from Réunion, an overseas department of France, to Toulouse, where it was examined by France's Civil Aviation Accident Investigation Agency, the Bureau d'enquêtes et d'analyses pour la sécurité de l'aviation civile, B, and a French Defense Ministry laboratory. Malaysia sent its own investigators to both Réunion and Toulouse. On the 3rd of September 2015, French officials announced that serial numbers found on internal components of the flaperon linked it, with certainty, to Flight 370. These serial numbers were retrieved using a borescope. After the discovery, French police conducted a search of the waters around Réunion for additional debris, and found a damaged suitcase that might be linked to Flight 370. The location of the discovery was consistent with models of debris dispersal 16 months after an origin in the search area then in progress off the west coast of Australia. A Chinese water bottle and an Indonesian cleaning product were also found in the same area. In August 2015, France carried out an aerial search for possible marine debris around the island, covering an area of 120 by 40 kilometers along the east coast of Réunion. Foot patrols were also planned to search for debris along the beaches. Malaysia asked authorities in neighboring states to be on the alert for marine debris that might have come from an aircraft. On the 14th of August, it was announced that no debris that could be traced to Flight 370 had been found at sea off Réunion, but that some items had been found on land. Air and sea searches for debris ended on the 17th of August. In December 2015, Liam Lauder found a gray piece of debris on a beach in southern Mozambique, but only after reading in March 2016 about Gibson's find, some 300 kilometers from his own, did his family alert authorities. The piece was flown to Australia for analysis. It carried a stenciled code 676 exabytes, which identified it as part of a Boeing 777 flap-track fairing, and the style of lettering matched that of stencils used by Malaysia Airlines, making it almost certain that the part came from 9mmRO. In late February 2016, an object bearing a stenciled label of "No Step" was found off the coast of Mozambique. Early photographic analysis suggested that it could have come from the aircraft's horizontal stabilizer or from the leading edges of the wings. The part was found by Blaine Gibson on a sandbank in the Bazaruto archipelago off the coast of Vilanculos in southern Mozambique, around 2,000 kilometers southwest of where the flaperon had been found the previous July. The fragment was sent to Australia, where experts identified it as almost certainly a horizontal stabilizer panel from MH370. The locations where the objects were found are consistent with the drift model performed by CSIRO, further corroborating that the parts could have come from Flight 370. On the 7th of March 2016, more debris, possibly from the aircraft, was found on the island of Réunion. Aflad Aziz Kaprawi, Malaysia's deputy transport minister, said that an unidentified grey item with a blue border might be linked to Flight 370. Both Malaysian and Australian authorities, coordinating the search in the South Indian Ocean, sent teams to verify whether the debris was from the missing aircraft. On the 21st of March 2016, South African archaeologist Niels Kruger found a grey piece of debris on a beach near Mossel Bay, South Africa, that has an unmistakable partial logo of Rolls-Royce, the manufacturer of the missing aircraft's engines. The Malaysian Ministry of Transport acknowledged that the piece could be that of an engine cowling. An additional piece of possible debris, suggested to have come from the interior of the aircraft, was found on the island of Rodrigues, Mauritius in late March. On the 11th of May 2016, Australian authorities determined that the two pieces of debris were almost certainly from Flight 370. On the 24th of June 2016, Australian Transport Minister Darren Chester said that a piece of aircraft debris had been found on Pemba Island, off the coast of Tanzania. It was handed over to the authorities so that experts from Malaysia could determine its origin. On the 20th of July, the Australian government released photographs of the piece, which was believed to be an outboard flap from one of the aircraft's wings. Malaysia's Transport Ministry confirmed on the 15th of September that the debris was indeed from the missing aircraft. On the 21st of November 2016, families of the victims announced that they would carry out a search for debris in December on the island of Madagascar. On the 30th of November 2018, 5 pieces of debris recovered between December 2016 and August 2018 on the Malagasy coast, and believed by victims' relatives to be from MH370, were handed to Malaysian Transport Minister Anthony Loke. A mathematics professor from Texas A&M University has argued that the plane may have entered the sea vertically. Any other angle of entry would have splintered the airplane to many pieces, which would have necessarily been found already. Malaysia quickly assembled a joint investigation team, JIT, consisting of specialists from Malaysia, China, the United Kingdom, the United States, and France, which was led in accordance with ICAO standards by an independent investigator in charge. The team consisted of an airworthiness group, an operations group, and a medical and human factors group. The airworthiness group were tasked with examining issues relating to maintenance records, structures, and systems of the aircraft. The operations group were to review the flight recorders, operations, and meteorology, and the medical and human factors group would investigate psychological, pathological, and survival factors. Malaysia also announced, on the 6th of April 2014, that it had set up 3 ministerial committees, a next of kin committee, a committee to organize the formation of the JIT, and a committee responsible for the Malaysian assets deployed in the search effort. The criminal investigation was led by the Royal Malaysia Police, assisted by Interpol and other relevant international law enforcement authorities. On the 17th of March, Australia took control of coordinating the search, rescue, and recovery operations. For the next 6 weeks, the Australian Maritime Safety Authority, AMSA, and ATSB worked to determine the search area, correlating information with the JIT and other government and academic sources, while the Joint Agency Coordination Center, JACC, coordinated the search efforts. Following the 4th phase of the search, the ATSB took responsibility for defining the search area. In May, A search strategy working group was established by the ATSB to determine the most likely position of the aircraft at the 019 Coordinated Universal Time, 819 MYT, satellite transmission. The working group included aircraft and satellite experts from Air Accidents Investigation Branch, UK, Boeing, US, Defence Science and Technology Group, Australia, Department of Civil Aviation, Malaysia, Inmarsat, UK, National Transportation Safety Board, US, and Thales, France. As of October 2018, France was the only country that was continuing the investigation, by means of its air transport gendarmerie, with the intention of verifying all of the technical data transmitted, particularly those provided by Inmarsat. A few deductions can be made from the satellite communications. The first is that the aircraft remained operational until at least 8:19 MYT, 7 hours after final contact was made with air traffic control over the South China Sea. The varying burst frequency offset, BFO, values indicate the aircraft was moving at speed. The aircraft's SDU needs location and track information to keep its antenna pointed towards the satellite, so it can also be deduced that the aircraft's navigation system was operational. Since the aircraft did not respond to a ping at 9:15, it can be concluded that at some point between 8:19 and 9:15, the aircraft lost the ability to communicate with the ground station. The log-on message sent from the aircraft at 8 hours 19 minutes and 29 seconds was log-on request. There are only a few reasons the SDU would transmit this request, such as a power interruption, software failure, loss of critical systems providing input to the SDU, or a loss of the link due to the aircraft's attitude. Investigators consider the most likely reason to be that it was sent during power-up after an electrical outage. At 8:19, the aircraft had been airborne for 7 hours and 38 minutes. The typical Kuala Lumpur Beijing flight is 51/2 of an hour, so fuel exhaustion was likely. In the event of fuel exhaustion and engine flameout, which would eliminate power to the SDU, the aircraft's ram air turbine, RAT, would deploy, providing power to some instruments and flight controls, including the SDU. Approximately 90 seconds after the 2:25 handshake, also a log-on request, communications from the aircraft's in-flight entertainment system were recorded in the ground station log. Similar messages would be expected following the 8:19 handshake, but none were received, supporting the fuel exhaustion scenario. 2 men boarded Flight 370 with stolen passports, which raised suspicion in the immediate aftermath of its disappearance. The passports, one Austrian and one Italian, had been reported stolen in Thailand within the preceding 2 years. Interpol stated that both passports were listed on its Stolen and Lost Travel Documents (SLTD) database, and that no check had been made against the database since the passports were first reported as stolen. Malaysia's Home Minister, Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, criticized his country's immigration officials for failing to stop the passengers traveling with the stolen European passports. The 2 one-way tickets purchased for the holders of these passports were booked through China's Southern Airlines. It was reported that an Iranian had ordered the cheapest tickets to Europe via telephone in Bangkok, Thailand, and paid by cash. The 2 passengers were later identified as Iranian men, one aged 19 and the other 29, who had entered Malaysia on the 28th of February using valid Iranian passports. The 2 men were believed to be asylum seekers. The Secretary General of Interpol stated that the organization was inclined to conclude that it was not a terrorist incident. United States and Malaysian officials reviewed the backgrounds of every passenger named on the manifest. On the 18th of March, the Chinese government announced that it had checked all of the Chinese citizens on the aircraft and had ruled out the possibility that any were involved in destruction or terror attacks. One passenger, who worked as a flight engineer for a Swiss jet charter company, was briefly under suspicion as a potential hijacker because he was thought to have the relevant aviation skills. U.S. officials believe the most likely explanation to be that someone in the cockpit of Flight 370 reprogrammed the aircraft's autopilot to travel south across the Indian Ocean. Police searched the homes of the pilots and seized financial records for all 12 crew members, including bank statements, credit card bills and mortgage documents. On the 2nd of April 2014, Malaysia's Police Inspector General said that more than 170 interviews had been conducted as part of Malaysia's criminal investigation, including interviews with family members of the pilots and crew. Media reports claimed that Malaysian police had identified Captain Zahari as the prime suspect, if human intervention were eventually proven to be the cause of Flight 370's disappearance. The United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, reconstructed the deleted data from Captain Zahari's home flight simulator, but a Malaysian government spokesman indicated that nothing sinister had been found on it. The preliminary report issued by Malaysia in March 2015 stated that there was no evidence of recent or imminent significant financial transactions carried out by any of the pilots or crew, and that analysis of the behavior of the pilots on CCTV showed no significant behavioral changes. In 2016, a leaked American document stated that a route on the pilot's home flight simulator, which closely matched the projected flight over the Indian Ocean, was found during the FBI analysis of the flight simulator's computer hard drive. This was later confirmed by the ATSB, although the agency stressed that this did not prove the pilot's involvement. The find was similarly confirmed by the Malaysian government. In 2018, the sister of the pilot said that the safety investigation report on MH370 showed nothing negative about the pilot flying the plane. According to the report, there were 7 manually programmed waypoint coordinates that, when connected together, will create a flight path from KLIA to an area south of the Indian Ocean through the Andaman Sea. But a forensic report concluded there were no unusual activities other than game-related flight simulations. They were dated the 3rd of February 2014 but could have originated from different files. Flight 370 was carrying 10,806 kilograms of cargo, of which 4 ULDs of mangosteens, total 4,566 kilograms, and 221 kilograms of lithium-ion batteries are of interest, according to Malaysian investigators. The 4 ULDs of mangosteens were loaded into the aft cargo bay of the aircraft. The lithium-ion batteries were divided among 2 pallets in the forward cargo bay and 1 pallet placed in the rear of the aft cargo bay. The lithium-ion batteries were contained in a 2,453 kilograms consignment being transported between Motorola Solutions facilities in Bayan Lepas, Malaysia, and Tianjin, China. The rest of the consignment consisted of walkie-talkie chargers and accessories. The batteries were assembled on the 7th of March and transported to the Penang cargo complex to be transported by MAS Cargo, Malaysia Airlines cargo subsidiary, to be loaded onto a lorry to transport it to Kuala Lumpur International Airport and onwards by air to Beijing. At the Penang cargo complex, the consignment was inspected by MAS Cargo employees and Malaysian customs officials, but did not go through a security screening before the truck was sealed for transfer to the airport. The consignment did not go through any additional inspections at Kuala Lumpur International Airport before it was loaded onto Flight 370. Because the batteries were packaged in accordance with IATA guidelines, they were not regulated as dangerous goods. Lithium-ion batteries can cause intense fires if they overheat and ignite, which has led to strict regulations on their transport aboard aircraft. A fire fueled by lithium-ion batteries caused the crash of UPS Airlines Flight 6, and lithium-ion batteries are suspected to have caused a fire which resulted in the crash of Asiana Airlines Flight 991. Both were cargo aircraft. Some airlines have stopped carrying bulk shipments of lithium-ion batteries on passenger aircraft, citing safety concerns. A 4,566 kilograms consignment of mangosteens was aboard Flight 370. The mangosteens were loaded into 4 ULDs at Kuala Lumpur International Airport, and inspected by officials from Malaysia's Federal Agriculture Marketing Authority before being loaded onto Flight 370. According to the head of Malaysian police, Khalid Abu Bakar, the people who handled the mangosteens and the Chinese importers were questioned to rule out sabotage. Public communication from Malaysian officials regarding the loss of Flight 370 was initially beset with confusion. The Malaysian government and the airline released imprecise, incomplete, and occasionally inaccurate information, with civilian officials sometimes contradicting military leaders. Malaysian officials were criticized for such persistent release of contradictory information, most notably regarding the last location and time of contact with the aircraft. Malaysia's acting transport minister Hishamuddin Hussein, who was also the country's defense minister, until May 2018, denied the existence of problems between the participating countries, but academics explained that because of regional conflicts, there were genuine trust issues involved in cooperation and sharing intelligence, and that these were hampering the search. International relations experts suggested that entrenched rivalries over sovereignty, security, intelligence, and national interests made meaningful multilateral cooperation very difficult. The Chinese academic made the observation that the parties were searching independently, and it was therefore not a multilateral search effort. The Guardian noted the Vietnamese permission given for Chinese aircraft to overfly its airspace as a positive sign of cooperation. Vietnam temporarily scaled back its search operations after the country's deputy transport minister cited a lack of communication from Malaysian officials despite requests for more information. China, through the official Xinhua news agency, urged the Malaysian government to take charge and conduct the operation with greater transparency, a point echoed by the Chinese Foreign Ministry days later. Malaysia had initially declined to release raw data from its military radar, deeming the information too sensitive, but later acceded. Defense experts suggested that giving others access to radar information could be sensitive on a military level. For example, the rate at which they can take the picture can also reveal how good the radar system is. One suggested that some countries could already have had radar data on the aircraft, but were reluctant to share any information that could potentially reveal their defense capabilities and compromise their own security. Similarly, submarines patrolling the South China Sea might have information in the event of a water impact, and sharing such information could reveal their locations and listening capabilities. Criticism was also leveled at the delay of the search efforts. On the 11th of March 2014, 3 days after the aircraft disappeared, British satellite company Inmarsat, or its partner, SETA, had provided officials with data suggesting that the aircraft was nowhere near the areas in the Gulf of Thailand and the South China Sea being searched at the time, and that it may have diverted its course through a southern or northern corridor. This information was not acknowledged publicly until it was released by the Malaysian Prime Minister in a press conference on the 15th of March. Explaining why information about satellite signals had not been made available earlier, Malaysia Airlines stated that the raw satellite signals needed to be verified and analyzed, so that their significance could be properly understood, before it could publicly confirm their existence. Acting Transport Minister Hishamuddin claimed that Malaysian and U.S. investigators had immediately discussed the Inmarsat data upon receipt on the 12th of March, and that they had agreed to send the data to the U.S. for further processing on 2 separate occasions. Data analysis was completed on the 14th of March, by which time the AAIB had independently arrived at the same conclusion. In June 2014, relatives of passengers on Flight 370 began a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo to raise $100,000, with an ultimate goal of raising $5 million, as a reward to encourage anyone with knowledge of the location of Flight 370, or the cause of its disappearance, to reveal what they knew. The campaign, which ended on the 8th of August 2014, raised $100,516 from 1,007 contributors. A month after the disappearance, Malaysia Airlines chief executive Ahmad Jauhari Yahya acknowledged that ticket sales had declined but failed to provide specific details. This may have partially resulted from the suspension of the airline's advertising campaigns following the disappearance. Ahmad stated in an interview with the Wall Street Journal that the airline's primary focus is that we do take care of the families in terms of their emotional needs and also their financial needs. It is important that we provide answers for them. It is important that the world has answers, as well. In further remarks, Ahmad said he was not sure when the airline could start repairing its image, but that the airline was adequately insured to cover the financial loss stemming from Flight 370's disappearance. In China, where the majority of passengers were from, bookings on Malaysia Airlines were down 60% in March. Malaysia Airlines retired the MH370 flight number and replaced it with MH318 beginning the 14th of March 2014. This follows a common practice among airlines to redesignate flights after notorious accidents. Flight 318, Malaysia Airlines' second scheduled daily service to Beijing, was suspended 7 weeks later, on the 2nd of May. According to insiders, this was due to lack of demand. Malaysia Airlines was given $110 million from insurers in March 2014 to cover initial payments to passengers' families in the search effort. In May, remarks from lead reinsurer of the flight, Allianz, indicated the insured market loss on Flight 370, including the search, was about $350 million. At the time of Flight 370's disappearance, Malaysia Airlines was struggling to cut costs to compete with a wave of new, low-cost carriers in the region. In the previous 3 years, Malaysia Airlines had booked losses of $1.17 billion, 356 million United States dollars in 2013, $433 million in 2012, and $2.5 billion in 2011. Malaysia Airlines lost $443.4 million, 137.4 million United States dollars in the first quarter of 2014, January to March. The second quarter, the first full quarter in the aftermath of Flight 370's disappearance, saw a loss of $307.04 million, 97.6 million United States dollars, representing a 75% increase over losses from the second quarter of 2013. Industry analysts expected Malaysia Airlines to lose further market share and face a challenging environment to stand out from competitors while addressing its financial plight. The company's stock, down as much as 20% following the disappearance of Flight 370, had fallen 80% over the previous 5 years, in contrast to a rise in the Malaysian stock market of about 80% over the same period. Many analysts in the media suggested that Malaysia Airlines would need to rebrand and repair its image and/or require government assistance to return to profitability. The loss of Flight 17 in July greatly exacerbated Malaysia Airlines' financial problems. The combined effect on consumer confidence of the loss of Flight 370 and Flight 17, and the airline's poor financial performance, led Khazanah Nasional, the majority shareholder, 69.37%, and a Malaysian state-run investment arm, to announce on the 8th of August its plan to purchase the remainder of the airline, thereby renationalizing it. Malaysia Airlines renationalized on the 1st of September 2015. In January 2015, the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board cited Flight 370 and Air France Flight 447 when it issued 8 safety recommendations related to locating aircraft wreckage in remote or underwater locations, and repeated recommendations for a crash-protected cockpit image recorder and tamper-resistant flight recorders and transponders.